Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Trig Podcast of Joy and Gozo TV on this beautiful Thursday, December 24th. I had to pause for a second. What day is today? Today is Thursday, Christmas Eve day. Tomorrow is Christmas Day. Merry Christmas. Feliz Navidad. Thank you so much for being here, my dear friend. I hope that you're having a peaceful, restful Christmas Eve as much as possible here in this crazy 2020. Talking today about a little bit of an update on how I am thriving or looking to thrive more in 2021 and kind of where my focus is going to be this next year in terms of this show, in terms of my career and life goals, etc. So, as you know, I am, if you know the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3 kind of person. I identify with that success achiever type. Now, the bad part of that is that when you don't accomplish your dreams, you don't succeed, in my case, in terms of having 1 million followers and 1 million listeners and 1 million people in my church and all those metrics, then things can get pretty bad. Now, this is also a very spiritual process that I've been on. This whole thing of who am I supposed to be next in this second half of my life is, like I said, a very spiritual and inward journey type of stuff. And if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, then you could probably relate to this that I'm going through. So for the first, I would say, 20 years of my life, the true me was at work. I was happy as can be, no cares in the world. Everything that I touched turned to gold in music and school and relationships. Married my beautiful wife, had an amazing job at a great church. I would say pretty much almost through my 30s, maybe my early 30s. Then the panic that had been in my life eventually just came out and kind of like just exploded into my body through panic attacks and anxiety and all the stuff that you're familiar with. And that was a result of almost like a debt that I owed to life, I guess, in terms of growing up without my parents. You know how like you have right now, hopefully, your family around you. Well, I didn't have that when I was in my teens. I had my grandmother who loved me and cared for me, but I didn't have my mom at Christmas, my dad, my sisters. I was in a foreign country. I wasn't a U.S. citizen, so I lived in constant fear of being deported back to this country that was at war. So as a 16, 17, 18-year-old young man, all that stuff got into my body, became like PTSD. And eventually, I had to cash out. And in my 30s, late 20s to 30s, it all just kind of blew up. Thankfully, I had therapy. I had a lot of mentors, and my healing process began. But what I lost was a sense of security. I lost the sense of safety that I grew up with in my nuclear home, back home. And so then, mixed that with panic and all these things, I began to unknowingly think that I had to acquire external things to stay in the country, that I had to become something that I'm not to be safe. And so you could say that was the unhealthy 6 in me. It was just really revving up inside of me. And so for the next 10 years, I began to want to acquire external success, which was natural for me in my early years, became this obsession, this fear that if I didn't have external success, I would be broke, I would be homeless, I would be deported, I would lose my life. All of that, of course, was just my anxiety talking, that brokenness, that virus that got into my system, the glitch in the matrix. Now, I kept working out, healing, yoga, therapy. I learned a lot about how to manage that noise, that glitch in the matrix. And it never went away, and to this day, it's something I deal with, but I've learned a lot how to manage it. But now, after 10 years of arm wrestling with God, I feel like he continues to defeat me, you could say, in this pursuit to succeed. He continues to. So let me put it another way. In my mind, for me to stay in the country, let's just say, right, to be safe, I have to be Joel Osteen or Bayless or you name it, these amazing speakers that with one message, seemingly, they can fill a church of 30,000. And that's just crazy, right? That's just not normal to think that way. But that's what my mind began to tell me, that I had to become some alter ego, some kind of almost like a made-up person to acquire enough safety to stay in the country, to feel okay, because I was in danger. So my mind told me, of course I wasn't. But that's what panic did, and etc. So I began to pursue these things with abandon. And of course, I'm not those people. God made me in a different way with different gifts. But then my obsession got stronger. And as I failed at that particular construct or idea, then my panic grew and anger, frustration, you name it. All along, God is trying to defeat me, you could say, at arm wrestling to bring me back to the true me, which basically is a disciple maker, someone who loves to connect with small groups and see people be transformed through relationship and conversation. And to let my quote success be in God's hands, to let him take care of that stuff and to destroy this whole idea of success, because success is just my excuse or my idol that maybe even not an idol, but it became my security, as I said, became this method or this thing that I thought would bring me peace, would bring me safety, would keep me in the country. Now, the reality is I've been a U.S. citizen my whole life. I've been paid my whole life. I've never been homeless. God has always taken care of me. So I had to let go of that panic, that PTSD of my early 20s. Now, the only way that God could do that was by not letting me have the 30,000 member church with one sermon. It sounds ridiculous, but that's what the anxious mind does. And so by the mercy and grace of God, God has been basically just defeating me year after year. Small churches, little success in terms of numbers online, very little external fame and glory, because I was looking for it. I wanted to do it on my own and out of the wrong reasons, to replace God, basically. And instead, God wanted me to return to the early success of my life where I had all those things, but it wasn't me. It was him doing it through me and with my joy and my gozo and wanting to give God glory without this fear. And I don't blame myself, because trauma does crazy things to a young man. War and separation and having your grandmother die and your father die and growing up without your mom and all this immigration stuff and you name it, it does stuff to a young man. But I can't live in the past. The truth is God has healed me. He's brought crazy beautiful things around me. From my wife of 25 years to our 3 beautiful teens, you name it, God has been good. So what's the problem? Well, it's that alter ego. And I won't even call it the alter ego. It's that panic. It's that 6 in me that wants to be safe through this one little narrow thing. Me being the Joel Osteen, preaching to 30,000 people so that I can be safe. The whole thing of safety in numbers. It's almost like overeating. If I gain enough weight, then I will protect myself from others. And so you just eat and eat some more, even though it's unhealthy for you. That's exactly what happened to me. I kept wanting to acquire numbers and externals so that I would feel safe from the scary world that wanted to send me back. And so God had to let me try it in his grace for many years and fail at my plan. And even to this day, I struggle saying, wow, am I really going to let go of that pursuit to trust God? Am I really going to let go of all this crazy stuff and be myself and actually see God use me in the ways that he made me? Am I really going to surrender this alter ego? What if? What if INS comes knocking on my door? What if I lose it all? What if all this stuff? And so that's where trusting God has has had to be important, and I struggle with that, and I wrestle with God, and I don't want him to win. But more times than not this year, especially this year, I have said, Lord, have your way in me, Lord. With fear and trembling, Lord, I will fight you. I still want to be amazing, but Lord, I trust you, and I will surrender to you, to the real me that is very gregarious and loves to be on a stage and wants to inspire 30,000 people. I still want to do that. That's healthy in me. That is the genius, the giftedness in me. But the motivation of fear and of safety, that's what God wants to get rid of in me. And I am saying, Lord, have your way. Do your work in me, Lord. And so as I move into 2021, instead of wanting a church of 10,000 with one of my sermons, instead I am turning my attention to the real me, which is a disciple maker. And so if you go to davidTrig.com/thrive, davidTrig.com/thrive, you'll see a list of different trainings. I can't wait to do these live. I really can't, like all of us, I can't stand this Zoom stuff, but we have to still be safe. So in the meantime, it'll be on Zoom, but as soon as we can, we will do this live in my living room, in an office, in your house, at the church, wherever we can do this, on Zoom if you're not local, because I think, we have to be hybrid from now on. But the point is, I won't be putting all of my eggs in the I need to be the next Joel Osteen or whoever your favorite preacher is, Dante, or whoever your mega church pastor is that you like. And instead of trying to be someone that you like so that I can feel safe, instead I am going to be who God made me to be. And I know that that will lead to his success, and it'll lead to my joy because he is good and he's faithful. And most of all, it'll transform people's lives. I'm not saying that preaching a message doesn't transform people's lives. And if I was that kind of person, I would do it. But I know how God made me. And I know that the way that he made me is to transform through conversations, through groups, through trainings and coaching. That is who I am. At the end of the day, I am a coach. I love coaching people, inspiring people, and of course, I'm a musician and I'm a speaker, and I love all that stuff. I love being on a stage and inspiring thousands, absolutely. But I can't deny that the true me is a disciple maker, a contemplative, a worshiper. I don't mean a worship leader as a job or a career. I just mean a worshiper. And I can be confident in that will bring me the success that I long for, but doing it through God's power, without that need for safety and security, without worrying about the next shoe dropping any moment, surrendering that part of me to Jesus, saying, Lord, take this panic that really isn't even there. I'm not being deported. I am not alone. Now, of course, I did lose my youth, you could say. But God has been so faithful. He's surrounded me with such love. He's surrounded me with so many blessings. But if I am still holding out for this one thing, this fame, I will never be able to truly enjoy what I have, including you, my friend, including this podcast, including all of the online content. So what if one person sees it, or two or three? It doesn't matter. What matters is my intention to bring healing, contemplation, peace, quietness, and success and amazing stuff and amazing content. I'm still a 3. I want to be a healthy 3, though, not an unhealthy person who's out to protect himself by acquiring wealth or by acquiring success. I don't really care about wealth, but acquiring external success, kind of the whole, there's a strength in numbers thing. That's more my problem. Instead, I'm realizing there's strength in being myself There's strength in being who God made me to be. There's strength in Jesus. There's strength in being who I really am. Excuse me. There's strength in surrendering that fear to God and realizing once again that there is nothing to fear. There is no elephant. There is no bear. There is no INS knocking on my door. I am a U.S. citizen. It's illogical, right? But this is the process that I've had to go through for a few years now. And I thank God, even though I still wrestle with it every other day, I think, man, if I only had 10,000 people. But I'm realizing more and more the emptiness of that, how wearisome that has become for me and for the people that I lead and for my wife and for my kids and for everyone around me, and how instead what they want and what they long for, what I long for, is love, relationship, discipleship, conversation, transformation, genuineness, and yes, being on a stage and all that stuff, but transformation at the day-to-day level. That is my sweet spot. And then on Sundays I can, dance and play and speak and preach and do all that stuff, but without the over pressure, the outrageous pressure that I put on myself to do all that other stuff. So as I said, I want to invite you, my friend. You don't have to be a part of my, quote, local church. You can be a part of my virtual community. You don't even have to be a part of a church. This is about thriving. This is about connection. And so if you want to see the themes that I'm going to be rolling out, you can just go, as I said, to davidtrig.com/thrive. And you can see the list of groups. They'll be free through Zoom. And then we'll have paid coaching if you would like to be a part of that as well. I hope that my process can be an example to you, that what I am learning can, in some ways, in a humble way, be an example to you. If you identify with this achiever, with this person who wants to be a great high achiever, but maybe God and life is guiding you in a different way to reach those dreams, and you're wrestling with that and you're wanting to surrender, but you're afraid, I hope that I can be an example to you on how not to be afraid. And even if you are afraid, actually, to still surrender and to let God win. Because then if He wins, guess what? He will lift you up and He will lift up everyone around you. And that's His promise, Psalm 40. Thank you so much, my dear friends. Make sure that you do visit my website, davidtrig.com/thrive. If you sign up before December 30th, you will actually get a free Gozo mug. So I would love to see you be a part of this new year, and I hope that together we can thrive in 2021. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.